2 days away from the Denver Broncos officially starting their season. On today's DNVR Broncos podcast, we are diving head into this game, and we're breaking down what are the keys for the Broncos offense against this new-look Seattle defense, and how does the Broncos defense stop Seattle's offense. Plus, we're giving our final score predictions for this game and the AFC West games, and it's all starting now. Oh, baby, let's go. It is the Friday before game day, and man, I am so excited. We've been waiting hundreds of days for this day to come around, and Henry, I can smell it. I can feel it in the air, in my body. It is Broncos game day, almost our final show before the game kicks off on Sunday. And we are the DNVR Broncos Podcast, coming to you live from the DNVR Bar here in the Toyota Lounge, which is, of course, driven by your local Front Range Toyota stores. And the show is presented by our friends over at Bet365. Use that code DNVR365 if you're going to get in on any action this week, including college, the Broncos, and there's even NFL action tonight. And I am so fired up because, Henry, 48 hours away, essentially, from the Broncos kicking off their season. How are you doing, my friend?
Oh, I'm good. I also just realized that I wrote all about Alex Singleton's tackles for Special Olympics thing. Forgot to include the link.
Yeah.
So now the link is in there, so hopefully that helps.
Look at that. A Montana Grizzly helping a Montana State guy out. We really can find common ground
Have you
anywhere
donated?
in this world.
I
have not. I haven't signed up yet.
Wow.
You did pledge?
So far, it's just me and Susie Wargen from the media contingent.
Wow. Maybe I'll go anonymous. I don't have to put my name on it.
But then you can't. Well, maybe you could write a message. I wanted to write "Go Grizz" on the wall.
Wow.
Yeah.
I hope he just doesn't take your money.
He'll take the money. Yeah, he's taking the money.
Oh, you mean he's taking the money? Because you questioned his intentions yesterday with his charity on the pod. And I was like, whoa.
Having spent more time on the website, I don't think there's no way for it to be anything
There's
shady.
no funny business?
No, unless he did something pretty crazy.
No, I don't think he did. Alex is a great guy who has a very long beard now.
Yep.
Like, very long. You should have a beard off with him.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not so sure.
Yeah, you don't sound convinced.
No. I think sometimes if I'm in good shape, then when it gets really bulky, it can look good. When I'm not in good shape, then when it gets big, my face just puffs out and looks round.
It looks like a chipmunk or something?
Yeah. Oh, like that. Big, hairy chipmunk.
So you're saying Alex is in shape?
I guess, yeah, I'll give him that. Yep, I'll give him that.
Man, we are just finding common ground left and right with a Grizz and a Montana State player. There we go. Henry, before we dive into this game, what'd you think about opening kickoff? What'd you think about that Ravens-Chiefs game?
It was so fun. It was so nice to have it back. And as much as we hate Patrick Mahomes and all that, seeing Mahomes and Lamar do their things back and forth is pretty awesome. I said yesterday, I mean, I had the Ravens. I also had the Ravens plus 3.5.
Oh.
And so, I thought it was kind of dead, and then it came back to life.
And then you were a centimeter away from that essentially being a lock.
When you watched it live, did you think he was in?
I don't know.
I watched it. I was like, I think that this is going the other way.
That's kind of what I thought.
Yeah.
But then you get excited because you're like, oh, they're going for two. Let's go.
Exactly, because then my bet
And then when
hits
they're
regardless.
like, oh, let's look at the replay. That's when it was like, before they showed the replay, I was like, I don't think it's going to be good. Yeah.
There's no way.
Yeah.
So that part of it sucked. But, I mean, it's just so awesome that football's back.
Agreed.
And having Lamar Jackson play the first game is a great idea because he is probably the most fun player to watch in the NFL.
I mean, just that matchup right there is a great way to kick off the NFL season. And, oh, my gosh, Henry, we were so close to the Chiefs starting the season with just an abysmal meltdown. I mean, a 10-point lead late in the fourth quarter when really I think they should have won by way more than 10 points. I think they dominated that game until the end of the fourth quarter, way more than they actually did. And so for them to play what I thought was that well and dominate that well, and then come literally a centimeter away from blowing everything they did that game, we were so close to like a perfect game for the rest of the NFL in terms of the Chiefs just absolutely crapping the bed to start the NFL season. And it's a bummer because they do start 1-0 on this. But we were so close to almost a perfect game. Like, it would have been awesome to see the Chiefs get blown out, but it would have been nearly just as good for them to blow the game like they almost did, because then it's like, oh, man, how are they going to bounce back to this? And now the Ravens have the lead for the top spot in the AFC. And unfortunately, Henry, my biggest takeaway from this game is there's got to be another top dog to fight the Chiefs in the AFC this year, because it's not the Ravens. And they came a centimeter away from doing that. But what I absolutely hated was their mental space after the game. Did you hear Lamar Jackson and Isaiah Likely after the game? Lamar Jackson's talking about how Isaiah Likely was in. No, he wasn't. We all saw, and it sucks that he was a centimeter away from being in, but he wasn't in. What are you doing saying that you still believe this is a touch? Like, you are living in Delulu land right now.
Wow.
What are we doing here? So I don't like that, because it's like, he could have been like, man, we were a centimeter away from an awesome comeback. And then Isaiah Likely after, he said, if the Chiefs are going to play like that, they've got they're going to be in for a rude awakening come playoff time or something like that. What? You just lost, dude. What are you talking about? So I think if Broncos fans want to hope that it's the Broncos that can fight for the Chiefs for the AFC this year. But if you want another team to also be able to take down the Chiefs, I think you got to cross your fingers that it is probably the Cincinnati Bengals. I think Broncos fans are going to be Bengals fans come the playoffs. I mean, maybe the Bills. You're higher on the Bills than I am, but just anyone but the Chiefs. But I just don't think it's going to be the Ravens. Lamar Jackson's 1-5 against the Chiefs in his career, and then after how they talked about the game yesterday, and Lamar Jackson had 2 opportunities in the end zone before that last play to hit an open receiver, and he just totally blew it. So I think the Ravens are still going to be a top seed in the AFC. I had them number 2 yesterday. I think they're still going to be number 2, but I have zero confidence in them playing the Chiefs in the playoffs. So
it's just one game, though.
No, it's 6 games. Lamar Jackson's 1-5 in his last 6 games. They absolutely blew the game last year because of coaching and playing. Also, by the way, coaching with the Ravens has totally fallen off. Derrick Henry gets 5 carries on the first drive, including a touchdown, and that is by far their best drive until late in the fourth quarter.
But they couldn't give him the ball because they were down. You have to throw when you're down. That's why.
No, because then the game was tied when the Ravens got the ball the next time. They gave the ball to Derrick Henry 3 more times in the first half, and then they gave him the ball 5 times in the second half. That's inexcusable. They weren't down when they got the ball for their second drive, and he got 3 more carries. So I'm disgusted by the Ravens because I thought they were the best hope to beat the Chiefs in the AFC, and now I have no confidence in them. So go Bengals, go Bills, go Dolphin. I don't even know. No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Oh, they've lost all my confidence.
Oh, my goodness.
You know who hasn't lost my confidence?
Well, wait, real quick. Isaiah Likely was, I think, kind of right. Like, the Ravens did all they could to shoot themselves in the foot in that game. Like, with the 2 open receivers in the end zone, like the penalties, Ronnie Stanley can't figure out how to line up before the snap. Like, just over and over and over and over. The turnover in there, too. The missed field goal from Justin Tucker.
Yeah.
Like, I think if I get what he's saying, that like if that's what the Chiefs do, the Ravens are more than capable of just not doing so many stupid things and all of a sudden.
Yeah, but at the exact same time, you could look at it from the Chiefs' perspective,
totally,
too.
Because they're going to get better.
Mahomes threw a pick, and that pick was uncharacteristic. But then also the Chiefs stalled out 2 or 3 different times in the red zone. Like I said, I thought the Chiefs probably should have blown them out by way more. So I think exactly what Isaiah Likely said, the Chiefs could say as
Oh,
well.
totally. They both would. But
also
like
think
what
it's-
he's saying is just like if they do that again, they're in trouble. Like we can beat them.
Oh, stop, Henry.
I don't think it's like I'm not
gosh,
listening to that
you
press
just
conference saying, "Oh
lost.
wow, the Ravens are doomed." Honestly, I don't even think I care what they say at the press conference. I think that you can just say whatever you want. It's one game.
Well,
They're going to be fine. It
it's
was
like-
the first game with a new offensive line, new coaches. They're good.
It's just like Burrowhead. Like, why would you do that? Why would you say something so idiotic that just can fuel, unfortunately, the champs even more? So, again, go Bengals, go everyone else
they're
because
in the
we
AFC.
need
The Broncos
more.
are in the AFC.
I'm saying once playoffs come around. But I
You
think
don't think the Broncos are going to be in there?
No, I'm the only one on this show that thinks the
so what are
Broncos
we
are going to be in.
doing?
I'm saying anyone against the Chiefs. I think we need another team in the AFC
Wow.
to rise up. This is the most anti-Chiefs take I can have. Also, the refs suck. Man, Juwan Taylor, let's get this fixed. Let's have it be called fair. They suck.
The thing is, Ronnie Stanley, with Juwan Taylor, he was moving a little bit early, but they haven't really called that all that much. They're kind of rocking back, which is I don't know the exact reason. With Ronnie Stanley though, he's just standing straight up. Like they call it based on like the belt of the center or whatever. Your head needs to be in line, otherwise you're too far back. And when he stands up straight, his head isn't out.
Yeah.
And the fact that you don't change that over and over and over is just insane.
It's insane coaching. And I don't know, I like Harbaugh, but the coaching in the past
totally.
2 games that he's been in, both against the Chiefs, have been disastrous. And they're 0-2 in those games. 1 at home, 1 on the road. But let's dive into this Broncos game. And I got to give a shout out to our friends over at Toyota before we do that, because our friends at Toyota are going to give you the ride of your lifetime. And the awesome thing is you can have this ride every single day, Henry, and you can choose whatever type of ride you're looking for. Whether you're looking for a sports car ride, they've got the Supra. If you're looking for a truck, they've got the Tundra, and they've been in the truck game for decades now, maybe even generations.
Who's to say?
If you're looking for a midsize car, they've got all of those as well. Of course, the Corolla, the RAV4, the 4Runner, my favorite, and then I think my new favorite, the one that's kind of stolen my heart, is the new Land Cruiser. I saw one of these puppies in real life. It's one thing when you see it online and you look at it and you're like, damn, that's a nice looking car. It's another thing when you see it in person and you're like, what is that? And then you're like, whoa, that's a Land Cruiser. It is probably my number 1 favorite car right now out there. So Toyota, I might be visiting one of the the Front Range Toyota stores near me soon to get myself a Land Cruiser. And if you need to visit a Front Range Toyota store, they've got a location near you. AutoNation Toyota, Arapahoe and Centennial, Corwin Toyota in Boulder, Groove Toyota in Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson Toyota East in Aurora, and Stevenson Toyota West in Lakewood. Toyota, the official automotive partner of the NFL and the official vehicle of DNVR.
And shout out to Z-Biotics. This is a big weekend for Z-Biotics because I've been trying to figure out what I'm going to do because Lexi is driving to Lincoln, Nebraska early tomorrow morning.
Oh, aren't you jealous?
Oh, God, no. That doesn't being at the game would be awesome, even if it is like the same time as a Grizzly game, but you can stream. But sitting in that car, that would be awful.
I don't know. Our friends over at DNVR Buffs are sitting in a bus right now driving over to Lincoln.
I bet that's so fun for them this time. and as soon as it's time to take that bus to Orlando, if the season goes well, they're going to enjoy it. That's all I'm going to say. But yeah, I have a bunch of free time this weekend, and obviously football's back. And so maybe that Z-Biotics pre-alcohol could be a good idea. It's a game-changing product. Basically, you drink it before a night out, and it helps you bounce back the next day. Because, without it, you can either have a great night or a great next day. With the Z-Biotics pre-alcohol, you can get both. They have a bunch of other products over there, too, if you want to check them out. But for vacations, weddings, birthdays, reunions, all those sorts of things, you should really stock up on the pre-alcohol. Go to zbiotics.com/DNVR Broncos. You get 15% off your first order when you use DNVR Broncos at checkout. Pre-alcohol is backed with 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/DNVR Broncos and use the code DNVR Broncos at checkout for 15% off. Thank you, ZBiotics, for sponsoring this episode and for sponsoring our good times.
And shout out to Bet365 for being the presenting sponsor of our show. Use that code DNVR365 if you're going to get in on any action this weekend, including tonight. And shout out to the Toyota chat. It is popping off right now, man. Some people are pissed at the Chiefs for winning that game last night, and I get it. We are too. And as our friend, scroll up really quick, you hear? As our friend Donald says, anybody but the frickin' Chiefs. And Jose says he's pissed off today and in a little prickly mood because the Chiefs won. And then we also had our friend just a little bit up here. Right there, Jeremy, who says he's going to the DNVR
yeah, we'll see him on Sunday.
Bar for the game. You guys should, if you're going to be in Denver, obviously the Broncos aren't playing at home, so you want to watch with a great crowd, come by the bar. Let's have an awesome watch party here. Henry's going to be here.
Yep.
Todd's going to be here. I'm actually going to be in Seattle, so if you want some behind-the-scenes footage, make sure you're following my Twitter account, my Instagram, and then also our Twitter account, DNVR_Broncos, where we're going to be giving you the best coverage, pre- and post-game show here with Hank and Todd, and then I'll be at the stadium joining the guys for both of those shows as well. Okay, so Henry, we got the disgusting news out of the way that the Chiefs won, that the refs still favor the Chiefs.
Quick disgusting piece of news. Pat Surtain, no longer the highest paid cornerback in the NFL.
Yes, but also doesn't that show like the market's just going to keep getting reset? And
definitely.
So the fact that they did this now and got him for $24 million,
meanwhile,
is like great actually.
Oh, definitely. It sounds like basically the Dolphins and Jalen Ramsey were just waiting until this gets done, and it's tacked on another $100,000 per year.
It's not quite the penny that Jamar Chase is going for.
No,
a little bit more.
It's pretty similar. So yeah,
it really is.
But I mean, good thing the Broncos are on the 24 million side, not the 24.1 million side.
And then the 24.2 million side, like Sauce is going to be on next year. Sauce is probably going to be actually over 25. So
I would imagine.
I think this is good. Good news. But yeah, I hope Pat Surtain enjoyed his 2 days of being the highest paid cornerback in NFL history.
Yeah,
because that was all it was.
That's all it was.
Which is wild. Okay, so we got the bad news out of the way. Henry, you want maybe the best news that I could possibly give you. And it's
the government is giving away $1 billion to every American.
They did that a couple of years ago. Well, it wasn't $1 billion to every American.
I bought a TV.
Okay, to Broncos fans.
Broncos fans might still want the money. But yeah, okay, what is it?
Die-hard Broncos fans who care more about the Broncos' chances of winning than they do about $1 billion in their pocket.
Okay.
Raise
your hand in the chat if that's you.
Die-hards. Come on, I know someone in the Twitter chat would rather have a Broncos win this week than $1 billion. The great news is the Broncos have a perfect injury report heading into this game. No players injured in any sort of respect. I'll touch wood because there's some people out there that think I'm going to cause an injury by saying that. I touch wood. We're clear. No injuries. I have never seen this since covering the Broncos for almost a decade now. Not a single injury. So that's great news because, and people say, well, yeah, it's week one, of course. Well, look at the Seahawks. They've got 6 or 7 guys on their injury report. A couple of guys that aren't practicing, including Draymond Jones is on the injury report. Looks like he's going to play, but maybe not. They've got some guys that probably aren't going to play. So it's great news. It's the perfect way to start a season.
It is. Also, can we get a poll in the chat whether you want $1 billion or Broncos clean injury report?
We're going to get one. Come on, Broncos Country.
I want to see what it looks like.
I had faith in you guys. You better have my back here. Okay, so let's dive into this, Henry. I got the good news out there. Also, some good news. Geno Smith, he is 10, 15, and 1 against the spread when he's the favorite in his career. So a losing record against the spread in his career. He is also, when he's a favorite of 4 or more points, right now the Seahawks are a 6-point favorite. He's 2-7 against the spread. So if you want to make that $1 billion, maybe it's betting against Geno Smith. Even if you're not taking money line for the Broncos, you're getting 6 points for the Broncos. Those point that they aren't going to cover the spread, the Seahawks, that is.
Sean is 50, 34, and 2 as an underdog against the spread.
Look at that.
Yes.
Everything's pointing to at least Broncos +6, if not money line. We're going to get into our picks later in this show. But Henry, let's dive in to what the Seahawks do on offense, defense, how the Broncos counter those. Which one do you want to start? You want to look at the Seahawks offense or defense first?
I don't care. I think actually let's start big picture.
You do care. Oh, big picture. Okay, neither.
What do you think of when I say the Seahawks have a head coach who's never been a head coach before,
Yep.
an offensive coordinator who's never been NFL offensive coordinator before,
Yep.
and a defensive coordinator who's never been an NFL defensive coordinator before?
I think, oh boy, have I seen this in Denver many times over the past decade.
One in particular.
And it's not pretty. It's typically not pretty. There are growing pains. And look, we saw it last night. I think the Baltimore Ravens miss Mike Macdonald. And I think Mike Macdonald is going to do good things for the Seahawks defense eventually. But especially, and we'll get into his defense a little bit. His defense is complex. He asks a lot from his players. But he's not just the defensive coordinator. He's the head coach. And sometimes guys can make that jump. Sometimes guys can never make that jump. Who knows what it's going to be like? I think he's a smart enough guy where he will. But there's still going to be growing pains. And so I love that the Broncos are getting this staff in week 1 because we've seen it too many times where it's a new head coach and things just go wrong, including the last time the Broncos had a first-time head coach with Nathaniel Hackett. There were so many mistakes in that game in Seattle where the Broncos just boneheadedly lost that game like time and time again. So I love that. I love that from a big picture standpoint that they're going up against a complete inexperience.
And I honestly think he gets too much credit for that defense because it's not like it's his defense. I mean, he got to Baltimore in 2014. He spent he was there through 2020 as the linebackers coach, spends 1 year as the defensive coordinator at Michigan, and then comes back as defensive coordinator. So it's not like he came and invented a defense or implemented his defense. He just continued to run the same Ravens defense that they've run, I mean, for honestly a couple decades now. And that's why, again, you see it was last year's linebackers coach who's now the defensive coordinator for the Ravens this year.
Yep.
They like to promote from within. They like to just keep everything the same. And I think that calling a defense in a system that's already there is very different than going somewhere new and implementing a new system.
Okay, I totally see what you're saying, but counterpoint, D'Amico Ryans.
Totally.
Ryans came into that San Francisco 49ers. He had all the talent in the world, way more talent than Mike Macdonald, by the way. And he took over the Robert Saleh defense, who he had established the defense, and he runs it just as good as Saleh. And then he goes and becomes a head coach and succeeds with flying colors. So, I mean, we've seen it just in the past year how a counter to what you're saying.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's examples of that sort of stuff. But again, you're going in there, you're implementing it. You don't have necessarily the right personnel. I mean, Draymond Jones, if he plays, is an outside linebacker for them. Like, he's not playing with his hand in the dirt. He's their weak side outside linebacker, which is just like, you got to find spots for those guys. And he played quite a bit on the edge last year. But I wonder what it looks like when you're just asking people to do something different for the very first time. I think that that's probably the ideal time to take on the Seahawks. And there's a bunch of other stuff. I mean, they tried to be more physical in camp because the Seahawks defense last year was pretty terrible. I think only 2 teams missed more tackles. There's a bunch of those sorts of stats where they just aren't tough or physical. So Mike Macdonald, being from the Ravens background, comes in and says, like, we're going to have a physical camp. There was one day where there were 5 fights. I think the clip going around was like DK Metcalf throwing helmets at people. But they're coming out fired up and doing that sort of thing. I'm curious. This feels like it's kind of set up for a massive failure if it doesn't go right.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Now, there is also the aspect of unpredictability for what the Broncos are going to expect. The offensive coordinator for the Seahawks has never called a game in the NFL.
Yep.
He's obviously called games at the college level, but not in the NFL. Like you said, a brand new defensive coordinator. And then Mike Macdonald. How do you study this game? Do you look at the Seahawks personnel and watch their tape? Do you look at the Ravens defense from last year and watch the scheme? You do both, and then you try to see how Mike Macdonald's going to use the Seahawks personnel on defense with the scheme. And so there is some guesswork there, and that's probably how the Seahawks, how STTL up in Seattle would be selling this game in terms of like how you combat or why that's a positive for this new coaching staff. But at the end of the day, I mean, there's so much film out there that nothing's going to shock Sean Payton. Maybe if this was Nathaniel Hackett and a very inexperienced coaching staff, it would. This is about as experienced of a coaching staff, specifically on the offensive side of the ball, as you can get. So nothing's going to shock this team. So I think that when you're looking at the unpredictability compared to the inexperience, I think the inexperience is going to be more hurtful for the Seattle Seahawks in this game.
Yeah, and we were talking to Adam Troutman about this yesterday, and he said basically you just flip back and forth. Like you watch the Ravens, then you say like, well, wait, who do the Seahawks have there? And that helps in a lot of ways, but you also have, that Ravens defense was incredibly talented. That's why they were able to do all the things that they could do. Like they want to play that cover one. You get your 5 guys in man coverage, you get your safety over the top. And that works really well when you have Kyle Hamilton, who kind of solves your tweener guys. Like he can cover a slot receiver. He can cover Travis Kelce. You've got Roquan. You've got Patrick Queen, who can cover tight ends in a pinch, who can absolutely cover running backs. And you just don't know if you have the personnel to do those sorts of things. And then you get into, like, when Kyle Hamilton's their slot with the Ravens, well, now that's Devin Witherspoon, who's an awesome player, but he's not a safety. He's a shifty, quick little nickel who makes it more difficult for them to cheat into their nickel. So one of the things the Ravens did a lot of last year is that, like, if the offense came out with 2 tight ends, they'd still play their nickel defense. Like they wouldn't shift to their heavier defense because it's Kyle Hamilton in the slot anyway. In this sense, he's kind of just a linebacker. You probably can't do that with a corner. And so if you're Sean Payton, you come out with the script early on and say, we're going to run some stuff with 2 tight ends, see if they're actually cheating into the nickel. Like they're just some of those sorts of questions where you figure out what actually is based on what the Seahawks will do or just the personnel. Like they didn't blitz all that much because they have to, because you got Matabike up the middle with 13 sacks as a defensive tackle. And so is that because Mike Macdonald doesn't blitz, or is that because they just didn't need to blitz, and so why would you?
And so let's really dive into this defense that the Seahawks are having here. And Henry, one of the things that you're pointing to is Mike Macdonald. He, especially with the talent that he had in Baltimore, he used guys like chess pieces. He used them all over the board. Yeah. And one of the kind of the staples of his defense over the past few years in Baltimore is all 11 players on defense have to know what the other 10 guys are doing, because he will sometimes have a corner jump inside, or he'll have a linebacker go outside, or he'll have a defensive tackle be on the outside of the line, and he'll have a inside or an outside linebacker move on to the inside just to really throw teams off. That's great when you're in year 2 and 3 and you inherit a defense that plays a similar way. And then so players are in year 6 of this. For game 1, that's a ton to ask of your defensive players to kind of know every position. So either one, I think he's going to be throwing too much at his defenders in this game, and there's going to be a confusion, and that's going to lead in breakdowns in the run game or in pass coverage, and there's going to be breakdowns somewhere, or Mike Macdonald isn't going to be able to play the defense that he loves to play because he's going to have to slowly implement it throughout this season. So I think either way, because Mike Macdonald's defense is so good when you have a lot of time under your belt, they don't have time under the belt right now. So I do think it's going to hurt them in one of those 2 ways.
Well, it's just going to be botched assignments. I was talking to Matt Henningsen about this a little bit yesterday because he played at Wisconsin under Jim Leonard, who's now back with the Broncos. He was the defensive coordinator of Wisconsin at the time. And one of the things that he does, just like Mike Macdonald, kind of Mike Macdonald's calling card, is that you run a lot of simulated pressures. So you still rush like 4 guys or maybe 5 guys, but what you do is say, like, let's line 5 guys up on the line of scrimmage, base 3-4, your 3 inside, your 2 outside linebackers. They've got their 5 offensive linemen. It looks like it's just one-on-one across the board. Well, then you just drop the 2 guys off the edge and blitz from the other side, and you've got a guy who's not being blocked and 2 blockers doing nothing. And so there's a lot of that sort of stuff where you're also asking your defensive linemen to drop into coverage, these shallow zones. And so there's a lot of these little things that are Again, you see more of that in a third down, but how much have they implemented? How complex does it get? You just don't really know. And you probably don't have the personnel for it, and you don't have the level of talent that the Ravens had in the first place, which makes all that interchangeability where you say, like, actually, Kyle Hamilton, your receiver, actually, Patrick Queen, we need you to cover the slot this time. That doesn't really work when you don't have those freaky players at linebacker and safety where, again, they've got 2 new linebackers, they've got a new safety. They've just have so many of these question marks that I'm not sure what this actually looks like. And to me, it seems like it's set up for a couple blown coverages.
I like that. I completely agree with you, Henry, and I think that is going to be something that the Broncos take advantage of. Let's talk about how this impacts Bo Nix, because I think Mike Macdonald's defense sets up such an easy game plan for Sean Payton in this game, specifically when it comes to Bo Nix. But before we do that, we got to tell you about how to get to this game. If you're going to be out to Seattle, if you're looking at tickets to fly out right now, you can still get tickets over with our friends over at Game Time. Go to gametime.co, not com, gametime.co, or go to the App Store, download the Game Time app, and regardless of which one you go to, use that code DNVR to get $20 off your first purchase making that game, whether it's in Seattle, whether it's next week in Denver against the Steelers, to boo Russell Wilson and to cheer Bo Nix. $20 or DNVR is going to get you $20 off. And they've got a new feature called Game Time Picks. And what that is it makes it so you get the easiest way to buy tickets. They filter live events to make it even easier to find the best tickets that are out there. They've also got super deals, which is just awesome. It gives you deals on great tickets. You're not just going to be sitting in the back for the cheapest price. They're going to give you discounts on great tickets. You hear showing us the awesome interface. And what I love about Game Time is it's so easy. The interface is awesome as he's showing you. You can do the all-in pricing, which puts the fees in there, so you're not surprised at how much a ticket is when you get to checkout. And then you can also click on every single seat that's available and see what the view is like from that seat, so you're not surprised when you get to the game at all. If you want to go to the Seahawks game, they've got tickets for all in less than $300. So if you want to make that first game, you can do it over at Game Time. And again, use that code DNVR over at Game Time to get $20 off. What time is it, Henry?
Game time.
Game time, baby.
I almost said ready, set, go time. Because it's also time to...
what time is it, Henry?
Ready, set, go.
Let's go.
Okay.
Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, UC Health is all about helping Colorado become healthier. And that's why they have teamed up with Coach Prime, turned him into the chief motivation officer of UC Health's Ready, Set, Go Challenge. The goal is to get Colorado back to its rightful place as the healthiest state. And part of that challenge is nutrition. So Nutrition Prime, another one of his names, is here to set the tone and get you thinking about choices. It's not about all the big choices, but just little things like how and what you eat. I did poorly yesterday because there were donuts upstairs. And
this morning.
Well, so I told you about the coffee thing where I ordered the coffee, didn't get in time. I tried to pick up Jimmy John's on the way, ordered the wrong Jimmy John's.
Oh my God!
So yeah,
Henry, how much money are you wasting by not
legit like a $20 day?
You bought?
And still, then I ordered the wrong sandwich also because I panicked when I was in it. It was not good. Not a healthy eating day, but I did go back to the gym today, so at least that's a step in the right direction.
Go.
And today will be healthier. Got a little leftover sushi in the fridge.
And leftover donuts that you've eaten.
I did actually. There were some left upstairs. Not a great start, but I did get to the gym.
You need to talk to Mindful Prime.
I know he would get me set up. Nutrition Prime certainly is against those donuts. But it's all about the little things that you do and just being aware of how those can affect your health. Pay attention to those. And if you want to join UC Health's Ready, Set, Go Challenge, click the link in the show notes or go to uchealth.org/Ready, Set, Go.
All right, shout out to our friends over at Bet365. Use that code DNVR365 when you sign up. Shout out because they're a presenting sponsor of this show. All right, Henry, so you talk about how Mike Macdonald's going to try to confuse teams at the line specifically before the snap, because he's going to put 5 guys on the line, then 3 are going to drop off, 2 are going to drop off, guys are going to come from different ways that you're not expecting pressure to come from. I think that is going to cause issues, because I think that's going to create a little confusion on the defense, specifically in his first game. So like you said, I think that's going to lead to some blown coverages. But what this means for Bo Nix and the Broncos is 2 things. One, don't think too much at the line. I want Bo Nix making all the checks. I want him to be Peyton Manning in terms of his ability to read defenses before the snap and make calls and checks. Not in this game. It's his first NFL game. Let's not put all of that pressure on him to do before. Obviously, some simple checks he can do. Get up to the line and snap the ball as quickly as possible. Don't let Mike McDonald and his defense try to confuse a rookie in his first game, because I think they're going to do this more than ever in this game, and I think it's going to hurt them, but I think it also could hurt Bo if they really, really, really try to confuse him, and Bo buys into that. I think Bo's a guy that's not going to buy into that, but I think this is something that could be a really bad matchup for most rookies. I don't think it's going to hurt Bo, but Sean just shouldn't give Bo the option. He should say, get up there and just snap the ball. Let's not try to do too much pre-snap stuff in this game. And then, so that's quick. Get to the line, snap the ball quick. And then the other thing with that is get the ball out of your hands quick. Don't think too much. And I think this is a game where Henry, well, I'll save this for our 64-yard predictions.
Oh, boy.
But I think this is a game where it's drop back, pass, drop back, pass. I mean, you're holding the ball for 1.5 seconds. Don't let Bo get hit. That protects him. It really helps him not make poor decisions. And it also really helps with just not overthinking what's going on. We saw this. This is what we saw in training camp. This is what we saw in preseason, is just Bo getting the ball out super quick. That's exactly what I think we see this week as well.
Yeah, and I think the big thing with Bo is just to not put him in situations where he could make a mistake. It's like, this is a long game. We've seen him for 2 or 3 series at a time, but going out there for, 3 hours, that's a lot of time for things to go really wrong. And what you don't want is for there to be 2 interceptions in the first half, and then all of a sudden he's rattled and he needs to, you're probably down in the game at that point, so you need to keep throwing the ball. You just want to keep him in decent shape through the first half, kind of just survive the first half in my mind, and that means you're just running the ball a lot. We probably spent too much time talking about scheme and coaching and not enough about the actual personnel. But as Baldy mentioned, Tariq Woolen got benched last year because he couldn't tackle. He just couldn't make a tackle. Despite being solid in coverage, could not make a tackle. So I don't know why you wouldn't just run a bunch of tosses his way, run a bunch of stretch runs his way. Put him in a situation where he has to make a tackle 5, 10, 12 times over the course of the game.
And on Javonte and Jaleel,
exactly.
where it's 2 totally different guys.
Exactly. You want to see if Javonte has the juice to get back to what he was early in his career. Well, This is a good test, because you should be able to get away from that guy.
Yeah.
Jerome Baker. I mentioned this after doing the Brandon Jones film room when the Broncos brought Brandon Jones over from the Dolphins. One of my big takeaways from doing all that is that Jerome Baker is terrible. He's fast enough to cover line or tight ends and stuff, but he has no idea where he's going. And in a new system, you're probably setting him up for failure if you run a bunch of powers or put pullers out there, counters out there. So to me, everything just kind of lines up. Despite the fact that the defensive line is kind of the best unit on that defense, I think that everything else points toward you just run the ball as much as you can, especially in the first half, and then just kind of see where you sit heading into the second half. Do you need to start opening things up? Is it working so you can keep running? And it also sets up play action passes, which are so much easier for a quarterback. Maybe not Bo, just because he loves the quick game and that sort of stuff, but lets you just roll out. The read is just half the field. It's all right there in front of you. The other thing about Tariq Woolen, we've heard Sean Payton say that when you have a cornerback, a really good cornerback, the thing that you really want to do is force him to tackle early and beat him up a bit. When the guy can't tackle in the first place, you'd have to imagine Sean is just thinking, we are going at this guy over and over and over.
Yep, 100%. I love that, Henry. That's certainly where it starts, is the run game, and you just do that all game long. Speaking of the run game, let's flip to the other side of the ball, Henry. This is the key for the Broncos defense in this game, is stopping the run. Stop the run at all costs. Do not overthink it, Vance Joseph. You have Pat Surtain on one side. You have Riley Moss on the other, and give Riley Moss some safety help as well. If Tyler Lockett plays, he's going to be a little limited with the hamstring injury. Jaquan can take care of Tyler Lockett, especially an injured Tyler Lockett. So you give help over to Riley Moss's side. You let Pat Surtain handle the other side. And then everything else should be against the run, because that's what the Seattle Seahawks are. And year 1 of Geno Smith, he was tremendous. Year 2 of Geno Smith, he came back to earth. He was good, but he was not tremendous. He is not going to be a guy that beats you left and right. 20 touchdowns to 9 interceptions last year. And Henry, the key for beating the Seahawks is stopping the run. The Seahawks went 9-8 last year. In 7 of their 9 wins, they rushed for over 100 yards. In their wins, their 9 wins, they averaged 110 rushing yards per game. In all 8 of their losses, they ran for under 100 yards. Not one of their losses did they run for over 100 yards, and they averaged 73 rushing yards a game in their losses. That's almost that's over a 40-yard per game difference on the ground. Their wins and losses. It's very clear what they rely on, and even with the new offense, that's going to be what they rely on again this year, is their running game, is Kenneth Walker. He's a guy that 2 years ago, he finished the season as like the best running back in the NFL in terms of what he did in the final 6 games of the season, ran for over 100 yards in every single game. He was unstoppable. Last year he was good, but not unstoppable. But they are going to try to run the game through their ground game.
I go the other way.
I just
go
gave
the
you
other
the
way.
stats of why that's not the case.
I think that's fair. I think that sometimes the running stats, it's kind of like a chicken and egg thing. Like you talked about last night. If the Ravens had been up, they probably would have gotten more rushing yards because Derrick Henry would kick. Or like
no, because I just told you earlier. I told you in the show the Ravens were tied and they gave the ball to Derrick Henry 3 more times in the first half. That was just poor coaching.
Ignore all that.
I can't ignore all that.
But just imagine a world in which, or just look at the Chiefs. What did they do those last couple drives? Pacheco.
Sure.
All of a sudden, there's another 25 yards tacked on at the end because you won.
That's the very end of the fourth quarter.
Totally.
I'm talking about in the second quarter.
Yeah.
But at the end of the first.
I agree. But when you just look at when you have 100 yards, you win. Well, the Chiefs just tacked on another 25 yards at the end because they won.
Yeah, but I'm talking about another 45 yards in their wins.
Okay, fair enough.
I do know what you're saying, Henry,
Yeah.
and there is a point to that. I'm just saying their offense now, it's no longer run through DK Metcalf in their receivers, right? Until they get a quarterback that plays like Geno Smith did his first season, not last year, it's through Kenneth Walker.
I mean, Geno Smith was a Pro Bowler last year, and I know there were 6 Pro Bowlers in the NFC. It doesn't mean as much, but like Jared Goff wasn't a Pro Bowler. Derek Carr wasn't a Pro Bowler. I'm not saying he's a great quarterback, but he still was one of the 10, 12 best quarterbacks in the NFL. He can get the job done.
He's average. He's not bad.
But
He's
here's
average,
the thing.
though.
Fair enough.
Kenneth Walker's better than average.
Fair enough. But you bring in Ryan Grubb, the offensive coordinator from Washington, and so we spent all offseason watching Michael Penix Jr. play, and that's the offense that's coming over. Geno Smith plays a lot like Michael Penix Jr. Like, the strength is the deep ball. The strength is the placement on the sidelines. I think that you probably do lean more into what Washington did last year just because there's so many things that point that way. You look at the weapons they have. DK Metcalf, it's the same thing. You want him working those sidelines. And I have a lot of thoughts. One of them is that...
Give me all your thoughts right now.
Downfield, you're looking at Geno going to those sidelines. A lot of what they did, a lot of what made DK successful is just the fact that he was able to jump up and take that well-placed ball like right off the defender's helmet. If the defender just gets his head around, all of a sudden those turn to pass breakups or interceptions.
Yeah. Also, really quick on that, there's no one better in the NFL to cover DK than Pat Surtain.
I agree.
He's the biggest and the best.
Totally. I think Tariq Woolen versus Cortland Sutton's another fun one too, just because
Agreed.
neither is probably quite as good.
Agreed.
Obviously, Cord is probably closer, but same type of thing. If the defenders get their head around, though, there could be some plays on the ball that could be made. Regardless, though, it is a big play offense. Like they're trying to go down the field. In the running game, even Kenneth Walker, only Christian McCaffrey has more 20-yard runs over the past 2 years. I think it's 19 for Christian McCaffrey, 18 for Kenneth Walker. Like it's all about those big gains. Offensive line. Their right tackle, Abe Lucas, is still hurt. They signed Connor Williams to be their center. He's still hurt. You're missing those two guys from an offensive line that already wasn't very good. I think this needs to be a game where somebody along the defensive line does something crazy, whether it's Zach Allen with 3 tackles for loss, whether somebody gets multiple sacks. It sets up really, really well for the Broncos up front to kind of show off this group that they've put together.
I love it. I absolutely love it, Henry, and especially that defensive line. This is a time when we need to see them eat. Broncos made the biggest improvements to their defensive line this offseason. We need to see them eat. All right, let's start diving into our predictions, Henry. And before we dive into actual predictions for the game, Henry, I want to dive in to 64-yard field goals, meaning long shots. And, of course, in Seattle, you never want to be kicking 64-yard field goals. But let's say this is a Denver 64-yard field goal. So maybe it's a long stretch, but it's something. It's bold predictions for this game. And, of course, the 64 yards comes from 2 times ago. Or the last time the Broncos played the Seahawks. The 2 times ago when they opened the season up, when Nathaniel Hackett sent Brandon McManus out for a 64-yard field goal, and it was no good. This one is going to be good, though. Let's give some bold predictions for this game, and I'll start because we're talking about how the Broncos have an opportunity to make plays on the defensive side of the ball. I'm going Pat Surtain has a pick 6 shows why he's the second highest paid cornerback in the NFL. And I'm also going to go with Riley Moss getting an interception. And Henry, we talked to Riley Moss yesterday, and oh my gosh, I know he's already a fan favorite for whatever reason. You can take a guess on that. Also, there's a lot of Iowa Broncos fans. I think that's the reason. But Riley Moss, I think, is going to be even more of a fan favorite. We talked to him yesterday, and he was talking about how this is his first start in the NFL. And when he made his first start at Iowa, good things happened, and he's expecting that again this week. Let's play this clip of Riley Moss talking about just why he thinks this could be a pretty lucrative game for him.
My first start at Iowa, I went out there and I got, 3 deep bombs, like first drive, and ended up with 2 picks that day. So it's a thing that it's going to happen. I hope it's going to happen, and I'm ready to make a play.
Shoot, maybe my 64-yard field goal needs to be 2 picks for Riley Moss to double that. He is ultra confident, and that's what you need, a guy across from Pat Surtain, because he's going to get picked on, and as he should. I mean, if I was Geno Smith, I would be going after him, not Pat Surtain, but I'm going to go pick 6 for Pat and an interception for Riley Moss.
Yeah, it's a big game for Riley. I mean, this is kind of you learn. Like, you're going to figure out whether he's the guy going forward, because, again, like, these are good receivers across the board. It's fun. You look at Tyler Lockett even. He might not play, which would be huge. There's one play last year where the defense is playing cover 4. It's the Cardinals. And he's in the slot. He's running like the little corner route, deep corner fade. And you've got the post from Jackson Smith and Jigba behind him. And Lockett gets up like 15, 20 yards downfield and just kind of like slows down and like pushes the gap, just pulls Buda Baker out of the way and just clears an easy lane for like a 45-yard touchdown for Smith and Jigba. Like, not only are they really good receivers, they're smart, and that adds a dynamic as well. So I'm curious, again, if he has a big game, all of a sudden you're off and running, because this is one of the 10 best receiver groups in the NFL. I'll go with Zach Allen gets 2.5 tackles for loss.
Okay.
That adds, because that's sacks count, So, like, maybe it's a sack, maybe it's a tack for loss, and he splits another. I really think this game sets up well for him.
I love that. I love that a lot, Henry. That would be huge. And, man, Zach Allen, he was an absolute beast in training camp and in the preseason. He played 1 game in the preseason and had a sack. And, of course, this is a little Zach Allen, Draymond Jones game, because the Broncos moved on from Draymond Jones, let him hit free agency, and they just straight up brought in his replacement, paid him pretty much the exact same money in Zach Allen. So this is a little showcase. Zach, show us that the Broncos made the right decision by bringing you here instead of keeping Draymond. And I'm sure Draymond's going to be trying to want to show the exact same thing too.
If he plays.
If he plays,
there are
that's
a lot of those guys. Like if they don't have him and they don't have Nwosu, all of a sudden I don't know where that pass rush is coming from.
I totally agree. Nwosu has not practiced this week.
Yeah.
So very much not looking like he's going to play, especially at the beginning of a season. That's a little dicey. Guys that are like on the edge to force them to play, those are ones that you typically do hold out. So stay tuned to for us. We're going to talk to Sean later today, and we'll get the final injury report to see who's out for the Seahawks. But Henry, I just heard what you said. It's going to be huge about the Seahawks' health. Any Broncos fans you hear saying they would rather have the Broncos' incredible health that they have than the Bill?
Give me one quick second while I pull up.
Just
214 votes. 17% has voted with clean injury report.
Let's go! I knew
83% has wanted the Bill.
All I was looking was for one person, and I think I got, 40 votes there? Let's go, Broncos Country. I had faith in you, and I do not blame the 86% or the 83% that would take $1 billion. I just knew I knew we had diehards.
Yeah, I voted for the clean injury report, just so everybody knows out there.
That's
no,
a lie. I can see who voted.
Let's go!
No, I literally did. Oh, it doesn't show me. I voted.
Crook. Wow.
You know it's from my burner account, right?
First of all, I really can't see who voted. It's a joke.
Well, go look.
I'm not able to. It's anonymous.
See, he's just.
Yeah, he's just. He's. Yeah, he's the liar and the crook. Okay, you here? Let's get into our game predictions. And we don't have Todd here, but we do have Todd's picks. Oh. But we've got Todd here in spirit. Todd, fire us up for this game.
I got it. Turn up, TD. Let's go get this man turned up. But this feel fucking great. This feel fucking great right here, baby. Hey, we got to cross the line. It's time to whoop their ass. It's time to whoop their ass. Let's bring it to these boys now. Let's go, y'all. It's on us. Let's go to one. Let's go to one. Broncos on 3. 1, 2, 3. Broncos.
Oh, baby, this feels freaking great. Let's go, Henry. Let's go. Todd always gets me fired up, even when he's not here. Let's make our Broncos predictions. Henry, how do you see this thing unfolding on Sunday afternoon in Seattle?
I'll take the Broncos. I'm riding the vibes. I've talked myself into it. I think, I don't know, I throughout the week, I've kind of thought it's a 50-50 game. I think both teams have some things that they can really hang their hat on, and some things that, I mean, are big question marks. And I think you look at the safeties, you look at Riley, you look across the board, there are a lot of question marks for the Broncos. How I even wondered if 50-50 was underweighting the home field advantage that Seattle has. I'm going with the Broncos, maybe more for vibes than football reasons, but I believe in the running game. I think they're going to run for a lot. I think Jaquan's going to outplay Devin Witherspoon. I think that, you know, it's going to come down to those sorts of things where young players kind of have to prove themselves. I'll say the Broncos guys do it.
Score. Prediction. You're not getting off that easy just saying Broncos.
Give me 17-13.
17-13. I absolutely love it, Henry. And I disagree with one thing you said.
Huh.
You said you believe in the running game.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in the running game, baby. I believe in this team. I believe in Sean Payton to give Bo Nix a fantastic game plan. I'm stoked to see what Sean does to start the game with the first 15 plays. I'm stoked to see how he puts Bo Nix in a position to succeed. I'm stoked to see the best cornerback in the NFL, who the Broncos now have on a bargain as the second highest paid cornerback in the NFL. And I'm excited to see Riley Moss. I truly am. I know it was a 64-yard field goal saying he gets an interception, but I told him yesterday, I said, my bold prediction is you're getting a pick here. And he was fired up about it. And I said, I'm just happy that you're not upset that I said it was a bold prediction. He said, no, let's speak it into existence, baby. He's fired up. I'm fired up. I'm going Broncos win this game. and I want to go 17-16.
Oh,
because
wow. I
that's
almost
been
did
the
that.
score the past 2 games, past 2 season openers
Yep.
for the Broncos. They've lost both of those, so that score of 17-16 is bad juju. I can't do it. I'm going Broncos 22, Seahawks 21. Henry, I feel the exact same way about this game as you do. It's a toss-up. It's a 50-50 game for me. I think the Broncos come out on the other side because of coaching. That's what kind of puts them over the top here. This is not a 6-point game. I can't believe this is the 3rd largest spread in the NFL right now. And Geno Smith does not do well in those games, and Sean Payton does do well in those games. So I think this is 50-50. If you're going to bet, I mean, that +6 is where it's at. If you want to take the money line with Broncos, I think it's really good value there. But I do think the Broncos come away with the win here. And as Baldy told us, this would be such a confidence-boosting win for Bo Nix, for the Broncos. So let's Bo, baby. Let's Bo.
Yeah.
We've also got one thing I don't like. Todd and Ryan are also picking the Broncos. There's a lot of confidence in the
everybody's pandering.
Broncos.
Yep.
Todd is going 24-17 Broncos, and Ryan's going 27-20 Broncos. So, Henry, you by far have the lowest score, but you might have the most accurate score since 17-16 is what the Broncos like to open their season with. You've got 17-13. So, all of us picking the Broncos. Let's look at the other game in the AFC West this week. There's only one more, Henry, because we've got the Raiders going into SoFi to play the Chargers, a division game right here, Henry. Who's going to win?
Real quick. Yeah, my chats aren't showing up in the chat from my burner. So you guys get that figured out.
Oh, yeah. Here has
I know, but,
identified the burner and blocked it.
I know, but even like yesterday, I'm trying to talk on the draft show, but I can't say anything.
I guess you can't be on your
I'm
burner
one of the
then.
few guys talking.
What's your
It's
burner?
so dumb. Oh, it's just my name, but I had to because I can't use my work account for some Google things, and so sometimes I'm just on this one. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Send me your account name afterward, and we'll get it figured out.
Okay. Pick for this one. I'll go Raiders. I think the vibes are just better there. I know people think the whole Jim Harbaugh thing is doing. I honestly don't know how the Chargers score a lot of points this year. Their offensive line, they lost talent. I think
They used the top pick.
they did, but they lose other people.
Joe
You
Alt's
lose.
good.
I think he could be good in the future. I think Baldy agrees, but those tall guys who are like 6'8", 6'9", there are a lot of downsides to being that tall. That I think will really show themselves at some point. But that's beside the point. Especially week 1. I don't see that going great for them, and I don't know how they throw the ball because they don't have any receivers. And I know the Raiders don't have like crazy talent either, but at least they have that defensive line. And I think this one might just be like 13-10. But I go Raiders on that side.
Raiders on that
Because
side.
I don't know how they score either, to be fair. I just think you throw it to Devontae Adams over and over and over again, it'll work out.
Fair. There you go. Henry's picking the Raiders. Everyone else on this panel is picking the Chargers.
Oh.
And Henry, bad news for you, my friend.
Yep.
You're 0-1. You
Yep.
picked against the Chiefs in
Yep.
Arrowhead.
You Chiefs fans were right.
Starting off with a loss.
You're
Todd
starting
and
out
I
as a Chiefs
starting
fan.
off 1-0. We're going to be 2-0 after the Chargers take care of business. You're going to be 0-2. But then, Henry, you are going to get a win with the Broncos beating the Seahawks this week. It is going to be awesome. I am so excited. We have finally made it, Henry. We've had literally like 200 days talking about this moment, and we are 48 hours away. It's been an incredible offseason, but it's going to be a better season. We've all got the Broncos, not just winning this game, but we've all got the Broncos with a winning record this year, and it starts this week. We're going to be doing a pregame show. Henry and Todd are going to be kicking things off 30 minutes before kickoff, so tune in with us, around 1:45-ish on YouTube for that pregame show. Then we're going to be doing the postgame show right when the Broncos beat the Seahawks. We're going to be going live on YouTube. Of course, if you listen on the podcast side, it will be turned into a podcast as well. But if you want to be joining with us in the Toyota chat, rocking and rolling on the high vibes that will win, join us on YouTube. And I'll be joining you guys from Lumen Field as well. I'm really excited for this. Shout out to everyone that's been rolling with us throughout the offseason. Shout out to everyone that's now rolling with us with the regular season. Hit us with the thumbs up in the Toyota chat. And Henry, you hear from myself. Thank you all. And let's Bo, baby. Let's Bo. We'll see you on Sunday.
I got it. Get this man turned up, TD. Let's go get this man turned up. Oh my God. But this feels fucking great. This feels fucking great right here, baby. Yeah. We got to cross the line. It's time to whoop their ass. It's time to whoop their ass. Let's bring it to these boys now. Let's go, y'all. It's on us. Let's go to one. Let's go to one. Broncos on three. 1, 2, 3. Broncos.
We all silly like the mayor.